hello, Little Falls. It's just Jeffrey, as always, joining you today for our now third installment of our Historic New Jersey series, coming to you from Drumthwacket in Princeton, New Jersey, the official residence of the governors of New Jersey. And I'm here with Elaine Hogan. She is our docent for the day, and she's going to be taking us around. And I'm going to now introduce you to Little Falls. Little Falls, Elaine, Little Falls.
A pleasure.
I'm going to exit stage right over here, and I'm going to hand it right over to you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. And welcome to beautiful Princeton, New Jersey. We are here in Mercer County. And as Jeff just said, this is the official residence of the Governor of New Jersey since 1982. But first, I would like to introduce you to the gentleman who built this beautiful home in 1835. He was actually born right here on the grounds of Drumthwacket in a small white cottage. His name is Charles Smith Olden, and this I would like to introduce you to Charles Smith Olden. He was the son of Quaker family, a large Quaker family here in the Princeton area, and Charles traveled around quite a bit. His parents and grandparents owned a small garden center here. He continued shopping and working in those places in Philadelphia and all the way down to New Orleans. He came back to the Princeton area. He met a beautiful girl from Trenton, and he married Phoebe Ann. The two of them were married and decided to build this beautiful mansion here in Princeton on the grounds where he grew up. So in 1835, they decided that they would build this beautiful Greek Revival style home. Right now, we are in the foyer of the home. As I just said, you just met Governor Olden. I'm going to refer to him now as Governor Olden. People will always ask, who was the first governor to live here since 1982? Well, guess what? When Mr. Olden lived in this home, he was such a wonderful neighbor and citizen of Princeton that the neighbors asked him to please run for state senator, which he did. And every day he rode on his horse to Trenton, and he served in our state capitol. Shortly after, everyone there who was an elected official decided that he was a really terrific elected official, and they asked him to run for governor of New Jersey. This was just prior to the Civil War. He agreed, and in 1860, the resident of this beautiful home was elected governor of New Jersey. So he was the first to live here many, many years ago. And at that time, he developed a very nice relationship with soon-to-be President Abraham Lincoln. He invited Abraham Lincoln to the State House, not to Drumthwacket, but to the State House. Abraham said that he wanted to give a very short speech, and the only thing he talked about was to thank the people of New Jersey for their participation in the Revolutionary War when we separated from Great Britain. If you would like to look on this side, magnificent furniture you will find throughout the house. This is a Chippendale mirror. We call it a mirror, but it's actually a looking glass on the wall. It was made by a carpenter, a very fine artisan carpenter in Philadelphia. His name was Mr. Chippendale. And to the left and right, we have something. These are on loan. These two portraits are on loan right now from the Princeton University Art Museum, but they are Mr. Olden's parents. So they lived in a little cottage. This is Hart Olden, and on that side is Temperance. And may I show the state flag, because I can tell you, you're going to see a lot of the state flag throughout the house. And many people don't know anything about it. First of all, the color in the background we call buff, B-U-F-F, and that color was chosen by President George Washington. What we find here is a shield, and the shield has 3 plows because we are the Garden State, and 3 of them represent the fact that New Jersey was signed in as the 3rd state of the United States in Haddonfield, New Jersey, in Camden County. We have 2 beautiful ladies. First of all, we have Lady Prosperity, and look again, all the garden vegetables and fruits of New Jersey right there. We are the Garden State. And on this side, we have Lady Liberty, and she is holding a red and blue hat at the top of her mast here, the long mast, and she represents the fact that the people of New Jersey want to be independent, and they're willing to fight for it. And we have a beautiful, beautiful headpiece here. We have armor, and we try to say that that's the Rutgers University Scarlet Knights. You should all know the Scarlet Knights are right there. And of course, our state animal is the horse. So it's important to know because you will see some of those symbols throughout the house. Magnificent pieces of furniture, magnificent architecture. What you see right here in the reception room is the original pieces that were all here, the wood carvings, etc. At the top, if you can focus in a little bit at the top there, the second owner put in a beautiful Palladian window, and this leads up to the private residence of the governor. And you can see the beautiful staircase, and during the holidays, it is magnificently decorated. Throughout the house, we also have magnificent carpets. This is over 200 years old. It's a Persian carpet that was hand-loomed, of course, in Iran. Just an absolute beautiful piece. Also throughout, we have a sideboard here that was probably in a dining room at one point, but we have several throughout the house that you will see. Now I would like to invite you into the dining room. When the house was built, this was 2 rooms. As you can see, if you can see over my head, there's a beam in the ceiling. This indicated that this was 2 rooms. The front room was a more formal parlor, or living room, where I'm sure the Oldens entertained at all times. And throughout, we're going to see again the Greek Revival columns right here, the Ionic columns. Throughout the house, there is a fireplace in every single room. On this side, we have another fireplace. And the back room here was a less formal room, often used in the evening. I'm sure Mrs. Olden did some sewing. And I'm sure the governor would receive a lot of paperwork at that time that came by way of horse and buggy. And I'm sure he would sit here and share some of that with her. Or if it was formal work for business, I'm sure he took care of it and signed what had to be signed. But this dining room is used quite often. The table is actually larger than this. We can extend it quite a bit. It was a gift to the former residence of the governors, Morven, which is right down the street. And it was gifted by Helen Minor, who was a first lady and the wife of Governor Robert Minor back in the 1950s. This table was gifted by her family, so it's beautiful. I'm very lucky today we have a magnificent 3 pieces of Tiffany silver on our table. Magnificent pieces. In 1906, the United States Navy built an enormous battleship, and that battleship was christened the USS New Jersey. In turn, the Navy called New Jersey and said, we would love New Jersey to present a gift to the battleship. At that time, there was a very famous silversmith doing wonderful creations of sterling silver and jewelry living in Newark, New Jersey, and his name was Mr. Tiffany. And Mr. Tiffany really did his homework. If you look at this magnificent piece, now remember, this is going on a battleship, but he created the base to look like a boat. There are beautiful symbols of the sea around here. You see waves of the ocean. You see beautiful anchors in sterling silver and also seashells. And look who's on this beautiful piece. We have our Garden State lady that you saw on the state flag, only this time her fruits and vegetables are in sterling silver. And on this side, we have our Lady Liberty, again, a symbol of freedom. Around the bowl, Mr. Tiffany really did his homework, and he studied the history of New Jersey. There are 6 medallions. Number 1 represents the United States. Number 2 represents New Jersey. Number 3 and 4 represent New Jersey when we were, before colonization, we were separated and we were 2 areas. We were West Jersey and East Jersey. And the dividing line is really right down here from Drumthwacket. It's called Province Line Road, so we were 2 separate provinces. The 5th one here is America House, which I've already mentioned. It's where we were signed in as the 3rd state of the United States. That is in Camden County, right down in Haddonfield, New Jersey. The building is still there, and it's called America House. The last one is up in Morristown, New Jersey, and that was General George Washington's headquarters during the Revolutionary War. So it's quite beautiful. And the table is used very often. This room is used quite often. We have 2 portraits in this room. We don't have a portrait of Mrs. Olden, but I have 2 portraits here that I would like to share with you. This is Dr. and Mrs. Gogol over 2 fireplaces. Dr. Gogol was from Elizabeth, New Jersey, and he was the first New Jersey resident to be president of the American Medical Society. And his wife was the first woman to start a volunteer service in hospitals for returning soldiers from any kind of war. So it's absolutely beautiful. Behind the doors here is a new wing that was added by our second owner, but not until 1890. We'll talk about that later when we get into the next room. The beautiful wallpaper in here is linen, and it's backed so that it can be taken off the wall and put back up for cleaning. So it has been taken down and put up again. And throughout the house, we have 3 lovely tall case clocks. This is one right here. This was made by George Ray. It is not running right at this moment, but it does. All of them work in the house. This one has a beautiful metal facing, and the woodwork in here is absolutely magnificent. This was all made here in 1818. So it's a very, very old one. The carpet is interesting here. This carpet, you can see how large it is. It's a very, very large room. It's 2 rooms, as I mentioned before. This was made by an American woman. Her husband was a missionary in outside Beijing, China, in a very small town. And she wanted to upgrade the status of women when she was there in China. So she decided to open a carpet shop in her home. So they had many women come to the house. The doctor, her husband, would provide them with child care. He would provide them with all kinds of health care. And women would sit for days and just tie carpets with tiny little knots. And this happens to be one of them. So we know that this was made between 1906 and 1910 outside of Beijing, China. Absolutely beautiful. So this is our magnificent dining room. As I said, when it's set, the table is set with our New Jersey Lenox china. The governors have a choice of 2 different sets. It is a magnificent setting. So let's move on. Please, we can come out to the solarium for a moment. As you walk through, you will see another Chippendale mirror here, made in Philadelphia. And again, you can start seeing that this brings in some of the influence of Asian art, which is absolutely magnificent. And another piece of Mr. Tiffany silver. This we call the solarium, another room that was added by our second owner, Moses Taylor Pine. If you look how magnificent this is right now. We only have 13 acres at this time, but when Mr. Pine purchased the home from Mr. Olden, he had 300 acres here. So it went from Route 206, which is Stockton Street in front of us, all the way back to where Mr. Einstein lived on Mercer Street. Right now you can see there are private homes that extend all the way around. And on this side, this is brand new, you're the first to see this, but you can see the construction going on. We have purchased, our board has purchased a very old barn, a New Jersey barn from Hillsborough, New Jersey. They took the barn apart piece by piece, and right now they're putting it together again, and this is going to become an event space here for the governor. So it'll be wonderful for the governors to use for large groupings, etc. What we do in the summertime or even in the winter when they're entertaining larger groups, this beautiful patio here is tented, so we can have all kinds of events outdoors. And we have master gardeners who are here today. You can see some of them out there in the garden. They take care of all the gardens for us as volunteers. The flowers and everything are absolutely beautiful. When Mr. Pine lived here, the second owner, when he purchased the home in 1890, he had Italian gardens here, and they were magnificent Renaissance gardens. And this is all terraces. You can see the terraces are still here. You walk so far out and down a bit, farther out and down a bit. And when you get down to the Arnold area at the end of the path, there is a spiral staircase that goes down to a frog pond. It's absolutely magnificent. Just beautiful. And you're here on a perfect day. So now join me in the parlor. A magnificent room. Let me close this door just so you can see everything on this side. This is another part of the original house. Again, if you look over our heads here, this is a beam that indicated that this was 2 rooms. The area in the back here was the dining room for Mr. and Mrs. Olden. But there was no kitchen in the house. Mrs. Olden did all of her cooking out of doors. This home is completely made of wood, and they feared fire. So outside is where she did all of her cooking, probably on what we would call today a brick oven type of stove and barbecue or whatever you would like to call it. But all the cooking was done out of doors. And they also had all of their gardens here. They had to raise all of their fruits and vegetables. And they also had to do some hunting on the grounds. We still have a lot of rabbits here in Princeton, pheasants, and a lot of deer. So I'm sure they ate a lot of venison. This is a really beautiful parlor right now. This room has 2 parlors. The one here is, again, a formal one, a beautiful fireplace. We have a lovely secretary here, piece of furniture. This is one of the most magnificent pieces we have in the house. This was another piece made in Philadelphia in 1776, a long time ago. It's absolutely beautiful. We have never touched it. This is the original veneer, and at the top, the cartouche that you see that is all hand-carved was beautiful. Inside, we don't open it, but there are little cubbies that you can see here for all sorts of storage and writing. These are pictures of our current governor and his family, the governor and our First Lady Tammy dancing, and also his children and the family right here. It's nice to have pictures around the families. Now the front parlor is a little different because in homes that were beautiful estates like this, they had a second parlor that was usually considered a funeral parlor. They used it every day for having tea or for whatever. It was a regular family parlor or living room. But in case of a death, no one has ever passed in this home, but in case of a death, they were able to use this as a funeral home. There were no funeral homes, of course, at that time. There were no stores. There was nothing. We have a beautiful picture here of Mr. At this time, he was just General George Washington, and this picture was taken in painted in 1795. And people often ask, why is he here? Well, or I should say, General Washington led the Battle of Princeton, which took place right on the grounds here. Drumthwacket was not yet built, but the cottage over here where Mr. Olden was born was here at that time. And Mr. General Washington had just won the Battle of Trenton, a very big deal down on the Delaware River on Christmas Day in 1776. And he decided one night after that battle he would but ride his horse. His white horse's name was Nelson. He came through all the woods and streams here, came to Princeton and saw, oh my goodness, the British were here waiting for them. So he went back, got the troops, and came into Princeton. The battlefield was right here on the grounds of Drumthwacket, and we won the battle. So this opening of Princeton to the world was so much nicer than not having it open. Princeton and Trenton were certainly between Philadelphia and New York, so it gave a very nice opening for both sides. I mentioned the secretary over there, but the very first secretary that I would like to show you is this piece right here. This is your original laptop. This was Mr. Olden's laptop, and this is from 1812. If you can see inside, it's where he would have had his quill pen and all the different places for his ink. And this is a felt top here where he would do his writing. And this is just like our laptop today where he could take everywhere. And many years later, he decided to build or to buy this beautiful piece of furniture. And if we look at this is the third secretary in this room. It's magnificent, and his family just donated this back to us 18 years ago because it stayed in the Olden family for many, many years. It's a beautiful desk that it does open up. I can show you this. It opens up with a felt top, and this is where he would sit and write many of his letters to President Abraham Lincoln. And inside there are beautiful pieces of pottery that you see, and they were a part of the beam porcelains here in Trenton, New Jersey. Anywhere you dig in the gardens here in Mercer County, you're going to come across clay. So clay was the perfect natural resource for potteries. And at the turn of the last century, there were 7 very, very famous potteries here in this Mercer County area. So the pieces that you see here were all beam porcelain. Absolutely beautiful. The rose that you see here was given to Governor Christine Whitman, but it's very similar to the rose that was given to Princess Diana. All made here by Helen Beam in downtown Trenton. Beautiful. And, I wanted to show you this portrait here. This is Jonathan Belcher. Jonathan was one of the last of our royal governors. Before we were colonized, before we were a state, of course, we were under the rule of King George of England, King George III. And he would appoint people from his country, from Great Britain, to come here to be governor. Now, Jonathan Belcher was the governor of what we knew at that time as Jersey and also York. So he was covering New Jersey and New York. He was instrumental, very instrumental, in developing what we now know as Princeton University. At that time, it was called the College of New Jersey, but we now know it as Princeton University. His papers and all of his writings are in the library still at Princeton University, which is right down the street. Magnificent. The tall case clock in this room, we're very proud of because it was made right here. I'll let you go see that. It was made right here in Princeton, New Jersey in 1779. It was made by George Ray, and you can read that right on the face of the clock. The Ray family is still very, very prominent here in Mercer County area. Yeah, beautiful. And I don't know if you can see the weights inside today, but you can see the pendulum inside, which is really beautiful. Really beautiful. But this was done by Mr. George Ray. So one person would do the clockworks, and then a carpenter would do the beautiful cabinetry. So It's magnificent. And look how tall it is. It wouldn't fit in many houses today. So it would really have to fit in something beautiful and tall. So now we saw the original part of the house that was built in 1835. Now we're going to move into what we call the Pine era. This is what we call our West Wing. And this was added by the second owner, Moses Taylor Pine, in 1890. When he purchased the home, well, prior to purchasing the home, he was a student at Princeton University. And he would walk around the town and he would go back and brag to the guys on campus, someday that beautiful white house is going to be mine. Well, he graduated from Princeton. He started a few very good businesses with the help of his parents. And eventually he bought this beautiful home and he expanded it, adding 2 large wings. The one behind the dining room where we were a few minutes ago is now our catering kitchen, and this side we're going to go through is a music room, a magnificent library, and what we call Mr. Pine's office at the very, very end, or his study. He married the girl across the street, Margaretta Stockton, very famous family here in Princeton, New Jersey. Her great-grandfather was the signer of the Declaration of Independence. Throughout the house, you probably also have noticed these beautiful chandeliers. They are water-free crystal, but they're reproductions. They are not originals, but they are beautiful. And the ceiling in this room, in both of the rooms here, it's very beautiful. It's called compo, and it's a composition of many, many, many things. It's a composition of hemp, and there's resin, and I forget the third one, but it's called compo because it is a composition of many, many beautiful pieces that can be carved, and they were carved all by hand for this particular room. Just beautiful. So now we can go on to the next wing. Again, this was all added here in 1890 when the house was purchased. And this is our music room. There's not a lot of furniture here. You do see a beautiful piano. But when the governor entertains, if it's a smaller group that was just in the dining room, he has plenty of seats here that can be brought in, and it is set up like a little theater. And we are very lucky to have we have a music school here, the Westminster Choir School of Rider University in Princeton, and sometimes students are invited over to play. But during the holidays, we have music here in the house, and sometimes on this side, not just the piano, but we will have perhaps a string trio here of a cello and a viola and a violin. So the room is absolutely magnificent. Again, another beautiful carpet here. And this is an interesting one because it's a signed carpet, which is very unusual. You come down here, you can see like a label in our outfit. This is a very rare thing to see, but this is a beautiful Persian carpet that is signed, and the date on there is actually 1269, which in our terms, this is the Islamic numbers, but in our terms it would have been something like, I believe, 1996. Someone told me. I'm not sure that's really true, but that's what we've been told. And what the letters actually say, that it was fabricated by Ahmad or made by Ahmad. That was the gentleman who made it. So in this room, it is the music room, but we also have the 3 portraits of the owners of the house. Quickly, we've learned all about Mr. Olden being born here on the property, becoming governor of New Jersey when he lived here in the state. The second owner was our gentleman I just mentioned, Moses Taylor Pine, the graduate of Princeton University. He bought this beautiful home and lived here for many years. He became a gentleman of extreme wealth, so this home became only his summer home. We'll talk more about him when we get into the library. And the last owner is our very famous gentleman here. This is Abram Spinell. Mr. Spinell bought the home from the Pine Estate in 1939, just prior to World War II. He was a great inventor, and he chose Princeton, New Jersey for his home because his manufacturing was all done in Dover, Delaware, and his executive offices were at Columbus Circle in New York City. So Princeton was a midway point, and we do have a little train that comes into the Princeton University campus called our Dinky, so he was able to come by train or go by train every single day. Many residents here remember him. What did he invent? He had the American Latex Corporation in New York City. So he was the man who invented many, many items of rubberized items such as Playtex and many items that were used on battleships. He did a lot for World War II. This room was turned into an engineering room at that time. The ceiling was lowered. We had, I'm sure at that time they said that we had fluorescent lighting, and his engineers all worked here and they stayed over. They lived on the 3rd floor of this home. But it was a magnificent time for this gentleman to really do so many good things for not only our country, but also for the war efforts that we had going. He developed all of the rubber rafts that you may see on a cruise ship today, but he developed them, of course, for the United States Navy. He also did some of the fabric that was used for the parachuting, and it all had, the fabric was all in some way elasticized, but that was his big deal. And from his name, we get something that's in all of our clothing today. His name was Mr. Spinell, and we get spandex from his name, which is, we think, is very, very exciting. Very exciting. We have a beautiful sculpture here. This is Mr. Washington, and it was done by a French sculptor. His name was Mr. Houdon. The first American that Mr. Houdon sculpted was Thomas Jefferson, who was much taller than Mr. Washington. But Tom got a hold of George and said, we really have to have Mr. Houdon sculpt you. But George wasn't really happy with it, because George liked to have on his uniform with the brass and the epaulets. But we're very happy to have a copy of it here. And another very famous person from Princeton, New Jersey, we have his portrait right here. And of course, this is Mr. Albert Einstein. If you walk out the gate that I showed you before, past the solarium, if you walk to the end of the path and cut through some neighbor's yard there, you will come up to 112 Mercer Street. And that is where Mr. Einstein lived when he was working at the Institute for Advanced Study. And those of you from North Jersey may remember a store in Newark, New Jersey called Bamberger's. It was a very, very famous store. We had a small department store here, also a branch of it in Princeton. But Mr. Bamberger started the Institute. He had all the finances for the Institute for Advanced Study, which is here in Princeton. It's a think tank. As a matter of fact, they just started their newest class for this year. I think there are about 200 new people who have been invited from all over, every country in the world, come to the Institute. And as I said, it is truly a think tank. But Mr. Einstein is here because of his presence in the Princeton area. Although he died in 1955, he still has a great presence here. On his birthday, on March 14th, every student in the Princeton School District dresses up as Einstein. People walk around town dressed up as Mr. Einstein. They wear the wigs and blow out their hair. And then the restaurants offer everyone a slice of pie, even though that pie isn't the pie that Mr. Einstein came up with in his equation. He was the man of the decade in this painting. This was the cover of Time magazine, but he was also the man of the last century. So a brilliant man who lived here in Princeton, had a great presence, a great piano player, by the way, great piano player and violinist. He loved to play his violin at night because at nighttime it calmed him down. So this is our beautiful music room. You can still see a lot of the woodwork here is the original to the Pine era. They took, again, the Ionic columns and brought them indoors, which is just magnificent. And this is all hand done here in Princeton, but this is all imported marble from Italy. This is the third of our tall case clocks. This one was made by a gentleman from New Brunswick, New Jersey, and his name was Matthew Edgerton. If you are ever at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City and you go to the American Wing, well, you're going to see a lot of Matthew Edgerton. He did an amazing amount of work with inlay all the way down, but he was from New Brunswick, New Jersey. You can see the writing and the signs inside here. Just absolutely beautiful. And the piece here, the top part, the actual clockworks, are magnificent with the moon and the sun when it is telling real time. Right now it is not, but he did amazing work with inlay. Now, welcome to this magnificent library, Mr. Pine's library. A lot to see in this room if you would like to scan about. Mr. Pine, Moses and his wife Margareta loved to travel, and they were traveling outside of London, and they came across a school. The school building had burned, but the library did not. So Mr. Pine decided that he was going to buy all the wood that was in this beautiful, magnificent library, and he was going to bring it across the pond to the port in North Jersey, one of the ports, and he brought it down here to Princeton, and we had local carpenters put this back together again. So it's an absolutely magnificent piece. The wood is magnificent. He believed in books. He believed that both boys and girls should learn to read and to learn to read well. If you look at the ceiling, they are all bookmarks. He had them designed to look like bookmarks. You will see 3 pine cones and many things representing his 3 sons. There's 3 fleur-de-lis from France, etc., all the way down. just beautiful. But all of this wood was in London. And you're also going to see some very famous printer's marks. Years ago, a publishing company did not write their name on the book. They would just use a stamp showing and you can see them, they go across, and also on this end, they go across the ceiling in here. So in other words, McGraw-Hill or Harcourt Brace Devine, they would have just stamped it with their beautiful pieces, just so ornately done and just so beautiful all the way down. This fireplace is quite unique. Mr. Pine also had, this is limestone, it's called Constone, C-A-N. It was all brought here, and right now we know it as Normandy Beach in northern France. We just had the big celebration this week, of course, of Normandy and the invasion, but this was all from that northern section of France, and it is all beautiful, beautiful limestone. If you look in the inset there is a family shield with 3 pine cones. Mr. Pine had 3 sons, and in 1918, the original pandemic, we all understand what the pandemic is now since we have just been through one, but in 1918, there was a huge pandemic. 1,200 people died here in Mercer County alone, and one, unfortunately, was Mr. Pine's younger son. So he has the chevron there, and then below is his son. But he left a beautiful message on the bottom. It's written in Latin, and what it says is that in the storm, meaning that he has lost a child, my family will flourish, meaning we will continue on in memory of our wonderful son. They have a beautiful portrait here of Mr. Pine, if you can see that. He is in his robes here. After he graduated from Princeton University, he became a trustee, and in the robes here, he was in his orange and black Princeton Tiger trustee robes. In the background, you can see a building that is known as Pine Hall. And a student at the end of the year receives a great award at the end of their education at Princeton, and it's called the Moses Taylor Pine Award. And we're very proud to say that we have a Chief Justice, Sonia Sotomayor, who went to Princeton and was a recipient of Mr. Pine's award. And in this beautiful cabinet, we have more of Mr. Tiffany silver. He did a really great job. There's over 150 pieces of this silver, and it's absolutely magnificent. Every officer on the battleship New Jersey had a piece of the silver. The plates were silver. In front of each plate would be a goblet for wine, for water, for juice, whatever the meal was. There were beautiful covered plates. And we also have salt cellars, tiny salt cellars in front of each plate. And there would also be a small pepper mill that's down on the bottom shelf. So it's truly just magnificent pieces. People often ask, why is it no longer on the battleship? Because the battleship is now, it is just docked right off of the coast of Camden, New Jersey. And you can visit the battleship and go on board. But the battleship is not secured as Drumthwacket is. So we have state police with us all the time to keep everything secure. And on this side, we have more of that magnificent pottery that we talked about that was all created and manufactured here with all the wonderful natural resource, the clay from Mercer County. Some of this was known as Willits china, and some was known as Ott & Brewer. Both of those potteries later became and were purchased by Mr. Lennox, so they all became Lennox china. On the bottom, you can see many families had their children's portraits put on their plates. So they're really beautiful examples of all the pottery made in Trenton, New Jersey. And we made all sorts, not just decorative pottery, but we also made sanitary pottery. It was called Maddox, and it's right here in Hamilton, New Jersey. And on this side, we have a sculpture of a very famous New Jersey inventor, Thomas Edison from Menlo Park. And of course, we have Edison, New Jersey named for Mr. Edison. And if you can see in the background a little bit, we do have a small collection here. These are just on loan from the Newark Library, but they're all children's books. Because on Wednesday mornings, we have tours with all fourth graders who study the state of New Jersey in their fourth grade curriculum. So it's very interesting that we have that. And on this side, we have beautiful Lennox china. This was all made for the presidents of the United States. We are very lucky to have a few of them here. And they were all made by Lennox china when Lennox was manufacturing in Trenton. On the left at the top there, that was all made for President Roosevelt. On the right, the red china was made and donated to President and Mrs. Reagan. The next one down was for President Truman. And the one at the very bottom there on the left was made for President Woodrow Wilson. Mr. Wilson was president of Princeton University, so he lived right here in downtown Princeton. He was also governor of New Jersey and then became president of the United States just before World War I. So those are all pieces of the China, what they call the China Room at the White House. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. We have a wedding photo here. Mr. Pines, he had three children, the youngest boy, as I said, passed, but his one son had one granddaughter, or one child, and this is the bride in 1934. Agnes Pine was married here on the grounds of Drumthwacket, and that was her wedding. That was her wedding picture, truly a beautiful piece. And on this side, if you look, we still have some of the Lenox china here, but we also have the governor's china. So if anyone in the audience becomes governor of New Jersey, you have a choice of two beautiful pieces of Lenox china. At the very top, you can see that was made back in the 1940s, and it has the symbols that you saw on the state flag, and also the symbols that Mr. Tiffany carried over into that beautiful punch bowl. And if you'd rather have a plainer piece with a solid color there rather than all the gold fill, you may use the solid green. And the bottom pieces, again, were all made for the White House. The windows here are beautiful. They're lead. You can see the lead glass panes, and there are icons in all of them. You will see a boat. You will see a fleur-de-lis. There's a sailboat at the top. There's a French horn. And the one I love the best is going into Mr. Pine's study. Is his little inkwell at the top. I don't know if you can get that shot. Oh, yeah, there it is. That's perfect. You can see the inkwell there. And that leads us right into the governor's study.